Hey, just moving some stuff around real quick. Could be working a little bit, but I'll answer some questions. Try and move this so I can at least see everything okay. There we go. Just making sure that was up. Sweet. How's everybody doing? Hello. Thanks. Can y'all hear me okay? I've got the air conditioner going on behind me because it's a little warm today. But if y'all can't, just let me know. Go. Got some stuff I need to work on, and I was like, I might as well go live. It's very random. I'm like never live on Friday night, but Kayla's out of town, and the plans I had tonight kind of fell through. So going to be live for at least a little bit on some platforms here, while I also try to work on some stuff at the same time. And then probably figure out what I want to do for supper. But yeah. So anyways. Absolutely. Appreciate it. I'm glad the videos have helped. My recent ex is trying to... Yeah, no, they're normally going to try to get together with people. Vicky, thanks so much. What advice do you have for a 14-year-old dealing with a father who is a narcissist? As far as like giving that person advice or giving you advice to deal with a 14-year-old? I gotta mute this because I can hear myself. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Have you ever witnessed your wife go absolutely bonkers and unlike herself from gaslighting? I'm super embarrassed how I reacted in the past. Quite out of character, but definitely reactive abuse. Yes, I have. I've seen that. I've caused that. But yes. Co-parenting with a narcissist. Come check out June 2nd. There's a whole thing coming up with Lisa Stronger Than Before. She's got a webinar coming up. I've got links in my bio that you can look at that. That's going to have a lot of good information. Lydia, the reason why he might say he wants to terminate his parental rights and then tells your daughter that he loves her after that is probably along the lines of like not looking like the bad guy, not wanting to look like the bad guy. Why is someone NPD not show up to court? They don't want to be the bad person. Like a lot of times they will not show up for sure. Advice for the 14-year-old dealing with the mind games. So, I mean, if they understand like, hey, the person's a narcissist and like they're struggling with it, part of it is they need to understand what narcissism is. Like they understand like the mind games that's actually going on. And they also need to be able to the person by like their actions. So gaslighting is trying to make someone believe something that's not true. So for instance, one person, the wife came home and saw a condom and it was in the trash. And she went to the husband and said, like, hey, like there's a condom in the trash, like proof that you've been cheating. And he went downstairs and took the condom out of the trash can and disposed of it and then told her, I don't know what you're talking about. There's no condom there. And then he made her go through and dig through the trash, and she felt like she was crazy because there's no condom to be found. So that would be an idea of gaslighting. Broke up with an girlfriend a month ago, and she refused to return my belongings. Sure, is another relationship. How do I get my stuff back? Typically, once you give money or once you give stuff to a narcissist, you don't get it back. Unfortunately, that's often the reality. Once you give out to a narcissist, the stuff you give them doesn't come back. Unless you have friends that can go get it, like a mutual that can like grab your stuff, or unless it's something you can get like the court to step in, not getting it back. Narcissism versus sex addiction is not necessarily that narcissism causes sex addiction. I think narcissism is prone to a lot of addictions, period. And a lot of times when those addictions pop up, it happens a lot with narcissism. Yes, it could be sex, drugs, alcohol, gambling, all that type of stuff. Good morning from Australia. Australia, what is it, like 6 over there? 7? They always slept with escorts and denied it. Vicky, what's up? Haven't heard from you in a while. Hope you're doing well. Good to see you guys. So just on here hanging out. Normally like never on a Friday night. I don't think I've like been on a Friday night in like forever. But decided to get some work done and be on live. So I found my ex is positive. CT letter from STD clinic. He was all what? I thought that was just bacterial infection. Didn't need to bother with you. It's crazy. Trying to minimize. Kristen would love to be able to help however we can. Is lack of affection from a narcissist and freaking the love bombs. I need normalcy. So yeah, a lot of times they have that. I do one-on-ones. So if you go to my link in my bio or to my website, rawmotivations.com, I have some one-on-one available. We're getting back into the swing of things. I was gone for a week or so with vacation. Now we're back at it. But yeah, no, I do have one-on-ones. I talk to people pretty much every day over like Zoom and kind of work through like trauma bond stuff and try to work through different things that they're going through to try to help them find growth, healing, and change in their lives. Sometimes it's just answering questions. Yeah, narcissistic abuse is one of the worst things that you'll experience, but there is hope on the other side. Yeah, Kristen, if you want to talk, feel free to reach out. But yeah, no, I had several like one-on-ones today. As a whole, I think they pretty went well. Kayla and Sophia are out for a bit. Kayla actually went to a wedding in South Carolina, so that's where they're at right now. They'll be back the next couple of days. So just hanging out, trying to do some more one-on-ones. Added some to my schedule yesterday and tomorrow. Just try to be able to do a couple extra while I had some extra time. If you guys having a chance to check out the Narc app, we've been advertising that a lot. Just wanted to let people know what's on there. So I was just looking, we've got over 2,500 people that have logged in, signed up. We just had a new course that just released just recently called Boundaries, and that's by Bree. She runs Abuse is Abuse. If you don't know who that is, feel free to check her out. Specifically, mainly on Instagram and on TikTok, but she's got a lot of great content and everything. But yeah, that just came out just as of today. Books for those who are healing from narc abuse. So I'm actually working on like a resource page to be able to have on my website so that people actually have a place to go to be able to look for that stuff. One of the biggest ones I would say right now is the one book, Psychopath Free. That's the one that a lot of my YouTube videos have been off of recently. It's like backwards on there, isn't it? But Psychopath Free. So check that out. That's a really good book. Yeah, it's just narc. Yeah. You don't have to have the periods anymore. I got that fixed. Thankfully, you can actually find it without the periods. I didn't know that when I made it. I was like, I don't know. So brand new into the app development world, but we're trying. We're working on it. So awesome. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. So the app is on Google Play or Apple App Store. So you can get it either way. Have I ever consulted lawyers? I've talked to lawyers. I've talked to psychologists. I've talked to I've talked to a lot of different people. You know, narcissists aren't picky with who they abuse. Yeah, and a lot of lawyers don't know about narcissistic abuse. The ones that I would have talked to would have been ones who have dealt with narcissistic abuse like themselves, not necessarily in the courtroom. Before I go, I just want to say thanks. Yeah, absolutely. Good to see you. Yeah, absolutely. There is, you can get out of this. It's crazy how my sister gave me a waist trainer after I started dropping weight. She wanted it back. She never went back and exercised. Interesting. Narc threatens me via email all the time. I've been in low contact for almost 3 years. I only respond in email when he reaches out about our child. Why is he being a jerk for no reason? A lot of times it's control, manipulation, revenge, anything like that. But it's trying to come back and like manipulate you. Manipulate you as far as reaction. See, supply can be like this good thing of like, oh, I got good supply. I got this person to love me. Supply can also be bad stuff of like, oh, like they're calling me out on stuff. It doesn't have to be supply. It could be either flavor. Why do people always believe them and not you? A lot of times that comes to like the grooming phase of how you were groomed along the way. Other times that's like early on in the relationship. A lot of the stuff that gets told everybody else is how amazing the relationship is. Then when it actually breaks apart and falls down, everybody's like, wait a second. Free platform you can use is Talking Parents through the court, and they can help with the threats. Yeah, that is good. There's Talking Parents, Our Family Wizard, and We Parent are the three that I know about. Can you think of questions I can ask a loved one to determine if they had a relationship with a narcissist? I mean, part of that is probably just getting them to try to open up of what happened in that relationship, like how they felt, if they were heard, if they were validated, how did the other person care about them? Can the abuse and love bombing occur within an hour or less? I always thought love bombing was just in the beginning. So love bombing typically is in the beginning to lock in the relationship, and then it's sprinkled intermittently sometimes throughout the relationship to be able to avoid accountability, to be able to avoid whatever's going on in that moment. How do I want to break the trauma bond? So the trauma bond goes back to cognitive dissonance, oftentimes hope, and then other times the idea of like potential. And so a lot of times people are believing or thinking or latching on to a different story, and a story that typically is not completely true. It might be one that they think, like if they love the narcissist more, if they work on it better, or different things like that, then maybe it'll work out. Mm, yeah, absolutely. I'm glad that the videos have helped. It feels like you're going insane for a period of time because you don't really know like what's going on. You don't have a clear idea of what's actually happening. Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, so Laura, you only remember the good because that oftentimes is what your mind is playing tricks on you. It's wanting to remember like the positives and not wanting to remember the negative. And a lot of times when you remember the negative, the truth of what actually happened in the situation, that's what starts to set you free. I haven't heard of that narc recovery by Evans. How do you get someone to realize that they're a narcissist? My husband declines anything's wrong with him. That's the problem. Is a lot of times there's not a way to be able to get them to acknowledge it because they think that everything's perfect, everything's right with them. Unfortunately, until they're willing to acknowledge their behaviors, their actions, and the decisions that they're making, there's really nothing you can do because you can't. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. You can't make them actually get to that place. Should we give up trying to defend ourselves from the narc smear campaigns? I'm no match for them. I would. The people that don't believe the smear campaigns are your friends, or people that actually have enough common sense to take a look at it. Otherwise, if everybody's just blindly believing it, they're not really going to be your friends, anyways. Yeah, Laura, we could definitely do a one-on-one if you want. So I've got the link in my bio, or you can go to rawmotivations.com and grab a time. Why would a narcissist move across the country for someone they smeared to their entire network? I didn't ask them to. Sometimes it could be their image. Sometimes it's manipulation. Sometimes it's a bet. Like you never really know sometimes. Will the narc try to come back even after you told them you don't want them? Yes, absolutely. So just because you told them that you didn't want them doesn't mean they're going to respect that. They never respected that throughout the whole relationship. Doesn't mean they're going to respect it at the very end. Not in a position to leave at the moment. Do you have any suggestions on how to diffuse the arguing for the moment? If you can, I would say probably gray rocking. A lot of times that's one way that helps to really get through those moments, but you have to already know your narcissist to know if that's going to be helpful or not. Sometimes with gray rocking, you can get into even a more dangerous situation. So please, be careful. What is the link to your bio? The link is in my bio. Like if you're on Instagram, the link is in my bio right there, or you can go to rawmotivations.com. Either way. Kim, you're welcome. You're not crazy. No, you're not crazy. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The more I learn in Grey Rock, the more my husband is becoming unhinged. Yeah, absolutely. Glad to answer your questions there. What if you stop talking for a year? Will they ever want to be friends again, or will they be extremely mad you left? A lot of times they're mad you left, but they'll still try to come back. They'll still try to hoover, control you, et cetera, et cetera. I'm back. I have no clue how to go about this. He pays for my kids and I to live. Yeah, sometimes when people get out, they have to go to a lot of different places, a lot of different extremes in one sense to be able to get out. I know one family that they had to get out and they went to a shelter for a period of time so they could get on their feet just because that was the only option for them. But at that point, like where they were, like the abuse was like so bad, like it was kind of like necessary. But yeah, you can ask what gray rocking is. So gray rocking is the idea of where you become as dull and as uninteresting to the narcissist as a rock, as a bump on the log. But nobody likes bump on the log. Nobody likes that. So we stuck with gray rocking. So with gray rocking, it's the idea of like they're saying stuff. They might be attacking you. They might be trying to do stuff to be able to get under your skin, and you're not responding. You're not giving them that reaction. Yeah, no, absolutely. I would say like you have to be careful. Like gray rocking in any situation, From what I've seen, gray rocking works 50% of the time. That's my uneducated guess and assessment based on talking to people and seeing it in action. Gray rocking, I think, only works 50% of the time. It depends on your narcissist. How does a narc compartmentalize their depression? I'm not sure how to be able to describe like how compartmentalization works. I just know that it works. I mean, it's really like the idea, like there's parts in my life, there's parts and things that I'm going through that I just like put in a box, like mentally, like literally, it's almost like that idea of like putting in a box and like shoving it to the side. I was talking to someone today and I was like, the hard part is after you do that for so many times and for so long, you get to the place that you start losing boxes. And so, that's kind of where I'm at sometimes, even with therapy. Like there was a time um, we were working on like childhood stuff and trying to think back, and there's like aspects that she was asking me to think back and couldn't really think back in some aspects. There was a point where she asked me, she was like, think back on like an image or a picture or a thought of like a picture of you, like an image of you in one sense. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know what to think. And like part of the thing that was like confusing me is I was like, okay, I can think of like an image. I can think of like a thought of like, hey, this is me at this time in my life, but I don't know if that thought is from me, like that I actually remember it, or that it's contrived from someone else's communication about that memory, or if it's just contrived from like a picture. It really feels like kind of weird. Probably doesn't answer your questions at all, but um trying. Does every narcissist Hoover? No, not necessarily every narcissist, but it's easier to say all narcissists Hoover and everybody prepares for the 5% out there that don't. How can we not be susceptible to guilt trips in general? That's a really good question. I mean, part of it is knowing like the facts of the situation and knowing what's actually going on. The more you educate yourself and the more you're able to be weaponized to be able to avoid that, understanding. Like I had someone today where they would feel like guilty whenever their husband wasn't there, like with the whole group, and then the husband would be there and like make them feel bad and stuff like that. And I was like, ultimately at the end of the day, like they're in charge of their decisions. So if they decide not to participate in family get together and outing, like that's not on you, and you can't hold that. I've never received any responses from this person on nothing. On what? How'd you come to this realization? The easiest way to be able to like walk you through that is to check out my YouTube video, Self-Aware Narcissist. Kind of walk you through some of those steps. In a nutshell, personality quizzes, Brene Brown's book, Daring Greatly, another book, Emotional Intelligence, Wake Up Warrior Challenge, and getting involved with a girl who had BPD and narcissistic traits. That's it in a nutshell. For me, I didn't have a light bulb moment. Some people are like, what was the light bulb moment that you had? And I was like, I didn't have a light bulb moment. If anything, like there wasn't like a light switch that flicked on. It was more like a dimmer switch over years that slowly made me kind of think like something's different, something's wrong. Like I should probably figure out like what's going on with the cycle, because I don't understand why I keep repeating and getting nowhere in life in one sense. I don't believe that a lot of narcissists have a rock bottom. I don't believe a lot of narcissists have a rock bottom. I really don't. Typically with narcissism, I think when they get to rock bottom, what happens is they just like flip the script. How to be a normal level of narcissistic to avoid this in the future. I've been trained that any of my boundaries are not okay. Yeah, learning how to set those boundaries is very key. Set those boundaries and keep those boundaries. Why did my ex-narc tell me that I should want to worship him? I mean, that's what the narcissist wants. They want you to be able to worship, bow down, serve. I mean, that's really what they want. They feel entitled to that. How long have I been married? Going on 9 years. It'll be 9 years in August. Can you join? No, I didn't see. Yeah, we can try. I'm on like a small phone, so there's like multiple people. My bad. Hopefully I'll be able to hear you okay, because I'm on like a small phone and then throwing it up there on the screen. I don't really follow the Johnny Depp case. A couple people asked me that. I've followed some. Like if I started following, I get sucked in, so I kind of stay away from it a little bit. Hello.
Hey.
Let me see. I can almost hear you. I think it's just my phone. Oh no, there we go. Hang on.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. No, you're good. It's just my phone trying to turn it up and trying to
Okay.
get rid of comments. I can't see you because of the comments, but yeah. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I have a question for you.
Yeah, what's going on?
Okay, so my husband is a narcissist or has narcissistic traits. His mom is a narcissist for sure.
Mhm.
So she's a narc, 100%. He talks just like you do. He compartmentalizes shit just like you do. He explains the same thing, and I've told them, dude, you have a problem.
Right.
We're on the brink of divorce, and I'm trying my hardest to stay,
Mhm.
to give him a chance. I know he's trying, but the cheating is so hard for me to forget. How can I help him?
Yeah. So right now that he is trying, like, how is he demonstrating that of trying?
Well, he stopped cheating, first of all. He's being transparent with me 100%, and I know that because I know everything he does at this point. There's
Okay.
no way he can do anything without me knowing.
Okay.
So I know he's transparent, but I don't know if this is going to last or this is just a phase because he thinks I'm going to leave him.
Right. Yeah, a
So
lot of
how
times.
can I help him? Because he thinks just the way you do. He explains things just the way you do.
Mhm.
And I don't know if it's real or not.
Yeah. The hard part with that is there's no way to tell for sure if it is real until you see that consistency and that vulnerability, like in the moment and like working through stuff. As far as like the aspect of like being with him and seeing like maybe some change or some efforts would be providing that space in one sense that's safe, and aspect of like he can be like he's not trying to think of the right wording, sorry. It's like the aspect of providing a safe space so that when he does open up vulnerably and stuff like that, there's not the aspect that he's gonna perceive or think that he's getting, shamed or devalued for the shit that he has inside, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
That seems like commonplace in some aspects, but that is one of the fears in one sense of like a narcissist, is the aspect of being vulnerable. When you tie it in with some of the other cluster B, you have some of the different aspects of not just the vulnerability, but also abandonment or the big feeling of like rejection. And so sometimes you run into that a lot of times with like criticism. So being able to come alongside and be like, hey, is this is what you're struggling with. If that's something that he's trying to seek, then it could be something that you could work with it somewhat together, but you also need to make sure that you're being very careful in setting boundaries and making sure that regardless of what happens, that in one sense you have an out. If he's not willing to change, then it doesn't slow you down.
It doesn't, and I think he has problems saying stuff. I'm sorry, my dog.
You're good.
I think he has problem with being vulnerable because he has never been vulnerable before in his life. And I've told him multiple times, just because I caught you doing shit or I'm disappointed in you doesn't mean that I will leave. I will give you that second chance if you actually choose to be open and try to be a normal fucking person. I'm sorry.
Right.
So I know that you've been through more stages than he has. He's just starting out. And you have mentioned in some videos, do not tell a narcissist that he's a narcissist. But if I don't tell them that, how is he ever going to find out?
Work on traits. Work on characteristics. Work on actions. You can focus on all of those without ever saying narcissism.
Okay.
So like work on like the honesty, work on the lying, work on you know, the manipulation, like you can work on all those things without, you know, adding a tag to it or without saying like, hey, this is what you are. And sometimes even on that aspect, the definitive moment of like, oh, you think I'm a narcissist, that whole thing can shift their whole dynamic. If they're actually willing to get work and willing to get help, you know, the feeling of like, hey, like I might be a narcissist, oftentimes will have them like run away. So
okay, so what you're saying is just by calling somebody out that's a narcissist is a negative thing, but if you explain why he does certain things and how they are unhealthy,
yeah, call out unhealthy behaviors.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem at all. Thanks for coming on. I have a oh, I guess I could have just like spoke it. I'm like here like typing when I could just spoke. No, it's not a one-on-one call. Sorry, I've got a YouTube and Facebook going at the same time. It's not a one-on-one call. It's just on live on right now. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. I just have it like set up so I can see it, and I'm also working because that's what I said I was going to do: hang out and also try to work and answer some questions. But I didn't expect people to ask to go live, so I didn't like hook it up. So that's why the sound is probably a little bit hard if you're on YouTube or Facebook to be able to hear out. Yeah, no, absolutely. At what point do you choose yourself, your own peace and well-being? Now, as of right now, you make that choice. And if that choice means you have to get out of the relationship for your own peace and well-being, then that's what you do. I should have like started on my other phone. This is like a really old phone. It's like really small. So like whenever people go live, like I can't really like see you and I can like barely hear you. If I can get, actually, this is probably old enough. I think it has. Oh, but if I do that, then you won't be able to hear it. If you guys are watching on YouTube or Facebook, were you all actually able to hear the person or no? So I think if I go out of Instagram to hook up a speaker or something, I don't think it's going to work. He says he's leaving. Does he mean it? Probably not. Wait till you see it actually happen. Okay, cool. I have it up as loud as I can, but like literally it's like an iPhone. I don't know. It's small. It's small. Then sure, let's see if people could hear. I don't know what order y'all came in, but I saw a couple of people here earlier, so we'll see. All right, I finished that one. Will I ever stop thinking about him? It's been 7 months. Yeah, you will. But part of it is changing that thought process, changing that story. Otherwise, a lot of times you're going to keep thinking about that person. You're going to keep going back to that thought process, to the fantasy of how it was. No, I don't think there's a specific link between ADD and narcissism. I think some of the future faking appears similar with both. Hardest thing is feeling like you're in a parallel universe. Let's see. Okay. I don't know where everybody else went. Let's see. Back. Trying to set up a couple things, trying to edit a couple things. Hello. I'm struggling to hear you a little bit. I'm sorry. I need to like hook up my speaker because it's like really quiet. Yeah, there you go. I can hear you. There you go.
Okay, so yeah, I moved to a new city not too long ago, and I was trying to make friends, and I'm also a pre-med student. But And he admitted it and everything like that, but at that time it was very difficult. But tried to abuse me and harass me behind the scenes because he had a really great reputation and image. But then I took some time away from all of the communities that we were part of, and I really thought about what happened, educated myself, like your video, Dr. Romney's videos, and now I'm at this point where I had him reported to the organizations that we're a part of, and there are things going on with that, but something that I noticed is that at first when I was scared of seeing him in public, he had a lot of confidence. But now, whenever I see him around, he really avoids me. He starts kind of shaking a little bit. And recently, he blocked me on social media. So I just wanted to, ask you, like, what that might mean. I kind of had some ideas. It took me a while to get to this point because at first I thought everything's my fault, or, what if he is, what if he isn't, even though he admitted it.
Right.
And yeah, it was a process, but I'm glad to finally have recovered a little bit.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's really good to hear, and that's really like encouraging, to be able to hear as well. So that process is really hard and really scary a lot of times, like whether it's coming forth or whether that's trying to hold them accountable, because you never know like what's going to happen. So the fact that he's staying away or not really like saying much is a really good sign, and hopefully along the lines of like he understands like his place now that you've actually like called it out and made it to a place where you reported him.
Gotcha. Okay. And do you happen to have any advice or like ideas about next steps moving forward? Just because I do want to keep myself safe, and also I thought that I was just gonna have to walk away from all this and kind of never get closure.
Right.
But I'm trying to go for the route where justice is put in place. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say like going forward, one of the biggest things like after you're out of a narcissistic relationship, after you detox from a narcissistic relationship, is really focusing on your future and focusing on your goals. And so that's kind of like your vision and values, and also setting boundaries. And those boundaries that you set need to be boundaries that are set for you. They're not set for the narcissist. They're not set for anyone else. They're really set for you, because a boundary is really your level of how much shit are you going to take from another person, and getting to the place where you're saying like, hey, this is who I am. This is the direction I'm going. If there's someone that's going to, be in my life, they need to agree to that and go that same direction. Otherwise, it's not something I'm interested in.
Gotcha. Okay. That definitely makes sense.
A lot of times people don't have a clear vision of where they want to go, and they definitely don't have a clear vision of when they get there, what it's supposed to be like. So sometimes they'll get there and then they'll feel like a void. They'll feel like, okay, like I just made this big accomplishment, or I just arrived at the place I wanted to be, or the personality, or whatever it might be in one sense. But then they haven't scripted it out knowing like, hey, this is actually what I wanted to be, So knowing where you're going and knowing how you want to feel when you get to that is really, really key as well.
Gotcha. That makes sense. And I was also wondering, with having narcissistic personality disorder, how do like you guys like tend to feel about like somebody like in my position, because like he blocked me, and I know that I asked like earlier about like he knows his place and everything like that, but I just don't want to be in a position, I guess, moving forward, where he like loses that sense of that boundary, loses that sense of that fear, because we're in a lot of the same communities together, and I want to be able to stay safe and make sure that he never crosses me again.
Right. Yeah, I would say like making sure that there's like those boundaries in place of like knowing like, hey, if this happens, then this is like the consequence or the end result in one sense. If there's an aspect that he's already kind of pulling back, hopefully that would be something that would continue forward. Not saying, definitely, because you never know in one sense, but I would say hopefully that would be the tendency that it might, if there's already that initial kind of like pullback in one sense. There's something else I was thinking about, I forgot, but like hopefully that would be the idea. But then like with like the aspect of like how do you make sure that keeps going forward is really just the boundaries, and making sure that the right people know about it, so that if ever pops up, like it's a a quick phone call to be able to get it solved and taken care of.
Gotcha. Okay, that totally makes sense. And my last question is, would a narcissist possibly kind of plan like a way to get back at somebody for exposing them, or like any like revenge like tactics? Because I know that it was something that he had mentioned in the past when I was in contact with him a long time ago. So
yeah, I would definitely say that's a possibility. The best way to be able to plan for that is no contact, to make sure there's absolutely no way for him to be able to contact or anything like that, is to keep those boundaries, keep the right parties aware, because that's something that you never know. And there's not a good way to be able to know, like, if they are planning something.
Gotcha. Okay, that totally makes sense. Yeah, I really appreciate talking to you. I don't really have anything else to add.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're good. Thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys in like the chat know about this book, but I've been reading Becoming a Narcissist Nightmare, which I skipped to the recovery portion because it was kind of painful for me to go over the beginning parts. But the recovery portion is really helpful. And I don't think that, like, I know every single person with NPD that's diagnosed is different. And some can be, obviously self-aware and getting better. And others kind of stay, like, on that same trajectory.
Right.
But I hope that everybody here gets to be able to have a good recovery. But yeah, I really appreciate you, and I find you and your videos really helpful.
Awesome. Well, that's good to hear. Thanks for sharing. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. All right. Bye.
Take care. What did YouTube say? Is it worth trying to advise a partner? I mean, it's a shame and guilt-ridden person who will not take any accountability. A lot of times, if they're not willing to take accountability or even attempt to change, then no, it's not worth like fighting that battle, because it's you like fighting with a wall. You're not going to convince the wall of something. Have you ever heard that 12-step programs help narcissism? Not necessarily. Maybe slightly. 12-step does have like some of the idea of like the repetition and kind of like reframing some of that mindset, some of that thought process. And that's not 12-step, but that's some along the lines of like how I work with people. It's almost not a therapist or a psychologist or a counselor, but how I work with people is closer, I would say, to the idea of like cognitive therapy. And that's the idea that I normally refer to as like rewiring the brain. And that's like rewiring the mind of like taking, what's going on, the situation that's going on and your perception of it, and basing it on what are the actual like facts of it. Let's see. Could a narcissist ever feel bad for abandoning their kids? I would say typically not. Sounds harsh, but I would say typically not. Let's see. Well, someone requested, and Catalina. I responded. So I guess not. Broken my arm 90 days ago. 3 weeks ago, she broke her left foot. Because of the broken foot, she tripped yesterday and broke several ribs. She is in the hospital. What should I do? If they're narcissists and if you're already no contact, then I would stay no contact. I wouldn't reach out anything. I know a narcissist that seems to be a really good dad. How is that possible? First off, it might be possible because it seems. Narcissists thrive on what you think, not what actually is true. Maybe they're a good dad on the outside, but what actually happens behind closed doors, what happens to the wife, all those different things. I need to refresh the page. Yeah, good questions. Sorry, let's see if it pops up now. Catalina, I tried to send you a request because it said you requested one, but for some reason it didn't go through. So we'll see. I don't know why it's not letting I had a couple people request to go like live to jump in, but for some reason it's like not pulling it up. It's not letting it do it. Let me try again. I don't know why. Oh, there we go. Hello.
I had no idea that was going to happen.
How are you?
Hi. Good.
Awesome. There you go. Sorry, I'm trying to get the volume as much as I can, but this it's an old phone that I'm using. So,
Okay.
What's up?
Nothing. So I just been following you recently, and everything you have said, it's being exactly what I like, who I was with, like exactly. And I had no idea that I was with not a narcissist,
Right.
Until he destroyed my house, and I had to get a restraining order. And even on trial, he still said to the judge, well, she was not in the house when I destroyed everything, so I never hurt her.
Wow. Yeah.
Like, it was never his fault, nothing.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, they'll always put the blame on something else. And it's sometimes when you're looking at different stuff like that, like I had one the other day that they didn't destroy the whole house, but they burned like an entire bedroom, but I think sometimes when you get to some outrages like that, you might be looking into sometimes a little bit more than narcissist, whether it's sociopath or psychopath. Sometimes those tendencies kind of pop up. Everybody's a little bit different, but yeah, no, it's kind of crazy like what they'll do, but then also the blame that they'll put on anybody and everybody when it's clearly like their fault, like it's your fault that I did this or whatever it might be.
Well, because I broke up with him. That's why.
Yep.
It was my fault.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, the biggest thing is knowing that it's not your fault and that you're not crazy and that you're able to take back your power, your self-esteem, your self-worth, and continue moving on with your life so that you're focusing on your growth, your health, and your safety.
Right. And that's the hard part, because after all this, it just makes me feel like every time I meet, like, I don't even want to talk to a man. I don't want to be near a man. I have like some kind of anger against men, and I never had that before, and now I just have it.
Right. Yeah, no, I'd definitely say continue to focus on your growth and your development, because ultimately long term down the road, like what's going to help you heal and grow the best.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks for jumping in.
Okay.
There we go. Awesome. How do you deal with breaking up with a possible malignant narcissist? We're long distance, never met, but I know he's cheating. He doesn't want me, only what I have. I mean, with the breaking up, like you're just gonna have to say it and go no contact. Like that's one of the biggest things, is making sure you go no contact. My narc may be more of a sociopath. I accidentally slipped with a box cutter and cut my arm way below my wrist, and he was obviously flattered and tried to insinuate that I was trying to do that. Interesting. Began to realize that there's another option when they are quick to sway but will come back. I felt it strongly on meeting new people. I just end the relationship rather than rely on lies. Yeah. Can two narcissists be together? My narc ex left me for his customer's wife. Jokes on him because she's a bigger narcissist than he is. I don't think two narcissists last long term, personally. there's too much like supply that they both want from each other, if that makes sense. But yeah, no, good questions. Good questions. Mine is left as soon as I gave birth, always abusive in messages when I asked for help. Last days, family heavily involved, and he's gone silent even to respected family. Is he reflecting his mistakes? No, I mean, he's probably not contemplating his mistakes. He might be planning something in one sense, but he's not. They're typically not self-reflective. No contact or low contact with kids is the best way. I can't tell you all enough what limiting contact and working on yourself can do. I appreciate these conversations so much. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, it's like giving me like random errors. Okay, go away. Instagram, it might be broken. I don't know what it's doing. Am I still live on Instagram? Do you guys still see me or no? Because I'm getting like a random error. It's like Instagram's like blocking me or something. All right, looks like the Instagram feed like died on me. Go no contact? Yeah, no, absolutely. I heard, but I'm on the videos. I'm on the videos of narcissists. When I learn ones, I can just pull away. Narcissists want to control you, that's for sure. So for some reason, like the whole Instagram one like froze up and completely died. So we'll see if we can get it back up and running. I run it off of a different phone. Because normally I run TikTok off of my like regular phone whenever I go live. But it's already 7 o'clock. Wow. All right, let's see if it'll pull back up again. Yep. It's not letting me go live with it. Croatia. Awesome. Good to see you. All right. Well, weird. How to make them stop stalking. There's not really a good way to make them stop stalking unless there's actually like a restraining order or they're getting thrown in jail or something like that. A lot of times they won't stop. Instagram, I don't know if it's actually working on my phone. It keeps giving me an error saying try again later. So I don't actually know if I'm actually live, and I'm trying to pull up my computer so I can actually see. But right now it's like really weird. What if you can't get a restraining order? There's not going to be a way that you're going to be able to like physically make them stop stalking. You know, unless you can throw them in jail, unless you're in something, you know, where, you know, they realize that they're, you know, they can get in trouble or they can be like threatened in one sense. Like there's really not going to be anything you can do just to get them to stop. Yes, I know I'm live. It's not, I've got my phone and I'm trying to get the live working on Instagram. For some reason, it was live here for a minute and then it just like shut down. I don't know. It looks like Instagram's live, but it doesn't look like people can put in comments. It says it's limiting. We limit how often you can do certain things on Instagram to protect our community. Tell us if you think we made a mistake. And I click tell us because they made a mistake. Guess it's not used to me going live on Instagram that much. So it keeps like popping up and not letting me actually do anything or letting people comment. So I guess we're not going live back on Instagram. It's all good. It's 7 o'clock. I didn't realize the time it was anyways. So I might just see about getting off here for a few anyways, getting something to eat. Since it doesn't seem like this is working correctly on both of them. Was wondering what someone can do if they want revenge and create dangerous rumors, lies to cause danger. What can someone do to protect themselves? So making sure, like, if you're in physical danger, you're like taking care of yourself to make sure you're, you know, moving, hiding, you know, going wherever you need to be out of that physical danger. If you can go through some routes like legally to be able to figure out, you know, what's going to be the best way to keep you safe or keep your family safe. If they want revenge, you know, a lot of times you're going to have to go like legal matters, you know, to try to be able to make sure you're protected, or, you know, disappear, ghost, like leave. I act like I don't see him. He passes by my workplace looking at me. How should I act when you see him? Should just ignore him. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about saying like anything to him. Just ignore him. But yeah. Awesome. Thank you all so much for being on here. Feel free to, if you want to talk sometime, go to rawmotivations.com or click on the Narc app on Apple or Google Play. Download that to be able to learn some different stuff about narcissism, be able to interact with community, several other things like that. I'm going to jump off right now since all my stuff is not working correctly, and we'll catch you guys later.